All right, Terry, let's talk about UCF because obviously I think most of us are really excited to see how much bounce is in the house. I think you guys have one of the best home field advantages in college football. I think the atmosphere is phenomenal. What makes UCF a good fit for the Big 12?
Oh, I just think we bring another dynamic to the footprint of the Big 12. I've got a lot of experience being in the Big 12. I've worked in the Big 12 before. I coached in the Big 8. And so bringing and planting a flag in the middle of the state of Florida, which is a huge resource state, recruiting, eyeballs, our fan base, obviously BYU and Utah, and then us will have the two largest living alumni bases. So I mean, I just think it brings in another team in the Eastern time zone.
Yeah.
Which is great. And obviously you guys are mountain, right?
Correct.
Mountain time. So I think it's great. And then, so I think it's mainly just the dynamic of adding to being a national conference.
But I also think the business aspect of the state of Florida, the recruiting pipeline, because the talent that's in the state of Florida. Yeah. The biggest thing for me with UCF is, how does nobody understand the brand? You guys, I feel like you fly under the radar because all we ever want to talk about is Florida State and Miami and the Gators. But I feel like you guys, it's disrespectful to say you're a sleeping giant. Truly, I believe that. You guys are a phenomenal program that I just think not enough people know about.
Well, listen, we are the big school. We've always been the big school. People talk about, the other three schools that are in the Autonomy 5 conferences. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, those are also good schools. But I mean, and people in national media, people have said, what's it like to be a big school? I said, what do you mean? We already are a big school. We have longer lines at our Chick-fil-A's on campus than some schools have in all their enrollment. So I'm just like, what are you talking about? We're huge. So, I don't think in the state of Florida we really fly under the radar screen. I think we're awake. We're not going back to sleep.
Yeah.
And maybe you might have some other teams or other schools in the state that say we're not part of the Big 3. We are. We're part of the Big 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Terry Mohajir, the athletic director at UCF, joins us on the Monty Show, presented by BladeHQ.com. One of the other things I think is so interesting is I believe you were on campus 7 minutes before you hired Gus Malzahn. Why was
I don't know about 7, but it was like, hey, it's nice to have you as our AD. Got to go get a football coach.
Yeah,
that's 100% right. Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be challenging. But how did you land on Gus?
I tried to talk to the administration. So maybe we should just hire an interim for a year. No, we need to hire a coach. It was February. Don't forget. And, it was, I worked with Gus before. We won a conference championship together. And, listen, I know his abilities.
Mm-hmm.
I love his offense. You got to run the ball to be successful.
Yep.
And everybody, talk about air raid and all that kind of stuff. Listen, you look at in this building, I saw the very first national championship in this building. Ohio State won it. They ran the ball.
Yeah.
Every team that runs the ball wins, and successfully runs the ball, I should say. And so, I love this. Obviously, he's the guy that invented hurry up offense, but more importantly, his ability to recruit is recruiting in the SEC is different.
Yeah,
it's just different, and it's just crazy what you have to navigate through, and being able to kind of read the tea leaves with athletes and coaches and the high school coaches and all that stuff. He's had that experience, and he's recruited Florida, and he's recruited the southeast part of the United States. And right now he's doing a killer job.
And I think you touch on recruiting there, but if you look at Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, UCF, I feel like you guys, with all due respect to your compadres there, I think you guys are in this unique situation where you're already winning. You're already running. You're not walking, trying to sprint.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you guys are rolling already. What is good about the business of UCF athletics?
When you say the business, you talking about the revenues,
revenue generation,
listen,
the whole
we're
pie.
already doing that. I think we're kind of maxing out now because we're sold out of our season tickets, and so we're trying to find new avenues, and I think that's why we align with Brett Yormark's philosophy so much. Is we're trying to be as innovative as possible.
Yeah.
We're trying to turn over every rock. we kiss a lot of frogs to try to find our prince. And it's just one of those things where we are. I mean, that's my background is external. I was a coach for a while, but then I moved in the external aspects. So, trying to create new IP is always a really important thing. But, with our size, being one of the biggest universities in the country, people know who we are.
Yeah.
And I think we can do a better job of telling our story. I think people in Orlando know, but I think nationally, as we continue to emerge as a national brand, I think the people will see the eyeballs and see who we are, and will learn a little bit more about us. And this footprint, I mean, BYU is a great national brand.
Yes.
But you may not have really, except for when they played in bowl games and stuff like that, never really have. Really
well, and they have the church behind them. It's a whole different dynamic.
Right. And so, I think, our living alumni with besides BYU being 450 living alumni, I think we're second. Once Texas leaves, we'll be second to BYU.
Well, and I think your alumni turn on the TV. I think your alumni go to football games. They go to basketball games, which is where I want to go next. Because I think obviously in this conference, the Big 12, football is a revenue stream. I mean, we've heard football, but that was my point.
Yeah.
Basketball now clearly is a revenue stream in this conference, and you're hearing about commercial divisions and whatnot. At UCF, how much of a money-making operation do you guys have for things like branding, partnerships, advertising, sales?
We have a multimedia rights partnership that we've contracted with, which is doing a really good job. Our biggest upside right now is we've got all that. We got naming rights. We do it all. We did all that in-house. Since I've been there, we named the stadium. We named our arena. We just renewed our contract with our arena. And, and then our biggest upside really is basketball.
Yeah.
Men's basketball, really, and women's basketball. Our volleyball, we have our separate facility for volleyball. I know it was real big in BYU too.
Yeah.
And so our arena is really nice. Our arena will be as good as any arena in the Big 12. I mean, I've worked with Kansas. I worked at Kansas, so I oversaw the external area.
Are they any good at basketball?
Well, they know how to generate revenue. Basketball. You know how they do it? They roll out the ball.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
They roll out the ball and they throw, and they do jump, and that's how they generate a lot of revenue. And so we got some work to do in men's basketball, but I think that's our biggest upside because we're pretty capped out in football.
Yeah.
We're sold out of our season tickets. We've already sold out of 3 of our home games this year. We got 6. We got Kent State, Houston, and Villanova left to sell out.
Yeah.
And I think those will be sellouts. But we're maximizing. We're using every piece of real estate we have to create IP and to maximize our revenue opportunities.
And real quick before I ask you about NIL, I do want to ask you about women's sports because I think, again, whether, you look at BYU, but in the state of Utah, you look at the success that the University of Utah is having across the board in women's sports. Like, how important and how much priority do you put on the success of your women's programs?
Our women's sports were what I took care of first when I got there, meaning we really emphasized and resourced our women's sports. As a result, since I've been there, we've won 3 conference championships in volleyball. We won 1 conference championship in soccer. We've won 2 conference championships in softball. We've won a conference championships in rowing, and then track and field. We've won 4 conference championships. Our women's sports are awesome.
Yeah,
I'd say our ladies are badasses. They really are.
And I think it's important because I as an athletic director, I know we talk about football all the time.
Women's basketball, we won a conference championship too.
Sure. So, but I think that's important because alumni base growing.
Tennis, we won a conference championship too. Sorry. So we won conference championships in about.
Let's talk golf, man.
I mean, we won. Sorry. I apologize. I apologize for that, but I don't want to leave anybody out. Man.
No, I got you.
So anyway, but yeah, our women's sports are better than our men's sports right now.
Yeah.
So
and that's huge, man.
So I would say we won the most conference championships in the American.
Yeah.
In the time that we were there.
Yeah.
And 75% of those conference championships were won by our women's sports. So
you do pretty well.
Pretty damn good.
That's awesome. Yeah. Terry Mohajir, the athletic director at UCF, joins us on the Monty Show, presented by BladeHQ.com. NIL. Obviously, I mean, I think Florida is a recruiting hotbed. There's so much talent there. Everybody goes to Florida to recruit. How has NIL impacted UCF? And do you guys have a process? Do you guys how does it impact you guys?
We have a collective called the Kingdom.
Yeah.
And they're raising money. They're out there raising money. They're crowdsourcing. They're going to individual donors. And it's a challenge just like anybody else across the country. You got to build your funds.
Yep.
and you got to create contracts with student athletes, and that's what they're doing. I mean, it's just like any other place in the country. It's but it's a process.
In a
But
political,
we promote it.
but in a political state like Florida,
Yeah.
and in the climate we're in this country, where we're talking about regulation with NIL, does NIL need regulation? Does NIL need the federal level and the state level?
100% it needs regulation. Absolutely.
And
yes.
why?
Because there's a lot of fool's gold out there. I'm from Kansas, so I always talk about a lot of people trying to follow the yellow brick road.
Sure.
And they always think they're going to get to the wizard. Or the wizard, they find out when they pull the curtains behind, the wizard's not real.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that believe that they're getting things they're not. Mixed in with the transfer portal and NIL, you have kids entering in the transfer portal that had scholarships. They're getting their education paid for because they think that the yellow brick road, there's a wizard at the end of the road, that they're going to get this big money, and they're not. And so now you have a bunch of kids that are in the transfer portal that have no place to go, as they say in the Officer and Gentleman.
Yeah.
I've got no place to go, and that's not what we're here to do. So do I think we need regulation? Yeah, because we are in the education business first and foremost, and in the competition business second.
But are you anymore, though?
Yes, 100%.
Have we lost focus on that?
No, I haven't.
But has especially in football, I feel like sometimes we talk too much about football and not enough about education. I mean, the National Football Foundation just sat here for 20 minutes talking about their initiatives to make sure the kids get educated.
Because it's true.
Yeah.
Because only 1% of our athletes are playing pro ball.
Yeah.
They have to get an education.
Yeah.
They're going to school. We have a 100% job placement program in our school. They're the only school in America that does it. We put our money where our mouth is. We live our core principles, and we constantly challenge our own core principles so they remain relevant.
Right.
We guarantee every one of our student athletes that they finish their eligibility at our place, that we're going to guarantee them a job or grad school placement.
Wow, that's powerful.
Oh, yeah, it is powerful. So education is, so when people say it's not listen, besides the GI Bill, there's never been a scholarship program in the United States of America that's benefited the youth of America like intercollegiate athletics, period.
But why have we lost that focus?
Well, we've not lost it. I think what happens, the narrative gets carried away by we don't talk. Number one, the practitioners, we as practitioners, first should take some ownership. We don't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
I think our previous leadership of the NCAA didn't talk about it enough.
I would agree.
And I think what happens is some of the narrative gets hijacked by the national media. Yeah. And it's not pushed back on like I am right now. I'm pushing back on, not because I'm pushing back on you. No. I'm just pushing back on the fact that it's still first and foremost. We seriously think about how we educate our kids every single day. Yeah. Academics, resources, classes, study abroad, all that kind of stuff. We're looking at that stuff, but no one talks about that because the narrative has been hijacked by transfer portal and NIL.
Yeah. Well, and think about the student debt right now that so many kids face.
That's right.
And you're playing football or basketball or whatever sport it might be
with no debt.
That's amazing.
And so it's amazing. Exactly.
Yeah,
amazing.
Terry.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, man. Let's not be strangers. Okay, I enjoy talking to you.
Welcome everybody from where are you located in?
Salt Lake City.
Okay, Salt Lake. Listen, we're excited to host as many BYU fans that want to come to our games this year, and obviously Cougar Nation from around the world. We're excited to host them in Orlando this year.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you. Bye. Thank you.